Recently I hit 300,000 subscribers, which is crazy, and so to say thanks to all of you, I wanted to make this next video based on what you guys wanted to see. I've talked about hundreds, if not thousands, of musicians, songs, and albums throughout my time on YouTube, but there's still plenty of stuff that I haven't gotten around to yet. Last week I tweeted this, asking you to recommend your favorite album that's relatively popular that I have yet to discuss on Alpha Media. I got a ton of suggestions, and today I'm gonna give my quick little takes on a bunch of these. I'm gonna name the album, give my general thoughts on it and the artist, say what I like or dislike about them, and move on to the next one. But before we begin, I want to thank the very relevant sponsor of today's video, Manscape.com, the premium brand for men's grooming and hygiene products. The music nerd community isn't exactly known for its personal hygiene, so I'm excited to talk about Manscaped's new Lawnmower 4.0. It has adjustable guards for customizable lengths and skin-safe ceramic blades, which help reduce nicks and cuts so you can groom with confidence. It's waterproof and cordless so you can trim in the shower, which is super convenient. There's a wireless charging dock and you can get 90 minutes of use on a full charge. There's a travel lock feature so you don't have to worry about it turning on in your suitcase, and so much more. Get 20% off plus free international shipping when you use promo code ALPHO at manscaped.com. Coincidentally, I've been going through a huge Arthur Russell phase recently, and while World of Echo isn't exactly my favorite, I definitely prefer Calling Out of Context and Love Is Overtaking Me, this is still something I'd recommend to everyone. It's a soothing introduction to ambient adjacent stuff, but more than anything, Arthur Russell is one of those musicians who is completely singular. Whether we're talking about his voice or his combination of experimental effects and cello playing, his music is unique and innovative to its core. Beyoncé's Lemonade is her masterpiece, no question about it. We've all heard plenty of quote-unquote breakup albums before, but how many times have we gotten a "my husband and father of my children cheated on me, but we're working through it" album? That's uncomfortable, intense, emotionally draining, but also kind of beautiful in a way. Lemonade is not black and white because that's not how life really is. We get empowering highs, devastating lows, and a whole lot in between. Musically, it's easily her most daring work, with earworm R&B tracks, stuff that borders on art pop, bits and pieces of country and rap, an interlude from James Blake, and so on. 2016 was the most important year for music of my life, and I think Lemonade has only gotten better as time has gone by. Soviet Kitsch by Regina Spektor feels like a time capsule to me, but I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. It's just very much an album from 2004, and I feel the need to mention that. Regardless, Regina Spektor rules. She's someone that brings a lot of personality to her music, with this offbeat, quirky delivery, strange but thoughtful lyrics, and so on. Sometimes you'll hear musicians trying too hard to sound different, but this is a genuinely odd woman writing intimate songs with her piano. Imperial Bedroom by Elvis Costello is something I had never checked out before, and sheesh. This might be a weird comparison, but it's what makes sense to me in this moment. I've watched a little bit of Arrested Development with friends, but I've never really sat down and gone through the whole thing because there are so many jokes that it genuinely messes with my brain, and I get caught up on the fact that I'm gonna miss something genius in the script. This album was the audible version of that feeling. Imperial Bedroom can be dense. The production is so lush with its harpsichords, phased guitars, strings, and so on, and with these tracks, I'm trying to focus on every piece that makes up the pie. But then we've got Elvis Costello's genius songwriting to experience too. While I'm very impressed with how grand this thing is, right now I think that it might be a little bit too much. There is such attention to detail on this record, and I hope that it grows on me with future listens. Growing up, I was a massive J. Cole fan. I was in middle school and early high school trying to get everybody to check out the warm-up and Friday Night Lights, but for whatever reason, I had lost interest in this rapper by the time 2014 Forest Hills Drive came out. While the production value and his technical skill undoubtedly went up on this thing, I don't know, I got kinda bored. This might have been a little too raw. I think these were plagued by him trying to conform to the mainstream after his rise to stardom. This era of conscious rap seems like too big of a course correction in the opposite direction. But these two, and maybe it's my nostalgia talking, are my personal favorites. P.S. This album has one of the goofiest rap songs I have ever heard in my life. I've been enjoying Olivia Rodrigo's Sour since it came out, but in the end, I think the project is a little lopsided creatively. With Brutal, Driver's License, Deja Vu, and Good For You, I was getting so excited about the risks this young musician was taking. Angsty pop-punk stuff reminiscent of Avril Lavigne and Paramore in 2021, right next to these huge passionate ballads that bring up comparisons like Taylor Swift and Lorde. What I was so interested in with this first half was a teen heartthrob pop star exploring different sounds and finding massive commercial success in the process on their very first release. That doesn't happen every day, but as the album goes into its second half, I think the rest of these songs start to blend in with one another, and it was a tiny bit disappointing. However, I like the project as a whole. I think the first half rips, and I can't wait to see what she does next. Nurture by Porter Robinson is something I've been dying to talk about, and it's one of my favorite projects of the year. I'm not usually very interested in EDM adjacent stuff, but this album seems to have a different emotional perspective when it comes to that style of music. Where I typically see the explosive, dancey beat drops of the genre as tired and lifeless, the drops on Nurture feel a lot more earned. I think this artist has found a happy middle ground between ambient and EDM where you can get up and sing along, but it's less about going crazy and more about feeling comfortable. This might be a weird way to put it, but there's a subtlety to his music that has brought relatability to this style where I've never really felt it before. This glitchy electropop feels very human. Now Not Yet by Half Alive is a mixed bag for me. Like many people, when I first saw the music video for Still Feel a couple years ago, the band definitely grabbed my attention. It was an alluring indie pop song with some strong visuals, but it turned out that was the peak of my interest with them. Runaway was another decent single, albeit slightly bland, and then the rest of the album just makes me wish I was listening to better versions of this group. On each and every track besides the two that I mentioned, you can clearly label the 21 Pilots song, the Bon Iver song, the 1975 song, and God help us, there is even an AJR copycat on the track list too. I do not hate this record, but I don't see much appeal at all. If I wanted some mixture of funk and pop, I'd listen to Wolfpack and call it a day. Fishmonger by Underscores is another project from this year that I've been wanting to talk about. This debut is a little rough around the edges, but I think there are still so many positives. As they say in their Instagram bio, it's the new wave of the future, and it certainly feels like it. This record combines hyperpop sounds with a pretty emo atmosphere to create a collection of Zoomer anthems. 100 gecs and 2017 Brockhampton or Roy Blair seem like strong influences to me, and if that doesn't sell my subscribers on a project, I don't know what will. Of course I love The Black Parade by MCR. Where else can I find a pop-punk rock opera? Throwing an extra layer of theatrics on this genre that is already pretty campy is everything I could ever ask for. Not only was this album big for shaping me and my musical taste during my coming of age, I've actually been listening to this and Three Cheers a lot recently, and I've been having the time of my life. I put out an entire video a few weeks ago on how people would be better off if they included more emo pop punk in their musical diets, and this is arguably the best project of that sound. While yes, I'll admit that there are a few technical things that could be better, it's still a perfect album to me. Thematically, we have some grim, dark lyrics surrounding death, nihilism, and fear in general, but by the end of the record, I think there's a lot of optimism that can be found within those same ideas. Whether your own struggles are a life-threatening illness or depression and anxiety, there's a lot of beauty in that hope of survival. The fight to keep going is inspiring to say the least, and I think The Black Parade encapsulates that battle in a brilliant way. The End is one of my favorite opening tracks ever. Welcome to the Black Parade is obviously iconic. Cancer is something that brings me to tears. The songwriting on Mama is top-notch. Famous Last Words might be the best moment in the narrative, and Blood is a fun way to close things out. I don't know if there's anyone in mainstream music today that sounds as homogenous as Post Malone, and Hollywood's Bleeding just feels like another example of that for me. It seems like no matter what he does on a track, in my mind it's just coming in as the same old Post Malone song. He's really good at making that one song, but I don't know how good that one song is. His floor is pretty decent because there's not a ton of risk taking, but the ceiling might as well be inches away. In the end, the way I differentiate his albums from one another are the few moments that actually feel unique from everything else. On here, it's pretty much just cool features from Ozzy Osbourne and Young Thug. There are still a ton of these that I want to go through, and I've been talking too much, so here's a speed round. Peggy is someone that I'm constantly impressed by, but haven't quite fallen in love with yet. With that being said, All My Heroes Are Cornballs is my favorite release from him, and the experimental production is what stands out. I've always enjoyed Like Clockwork by Queens of the Stone Age to a certain extent. I remember getting it recommended to me as the best album of that year, which I don't know about all that, but it's well balanced and there aren't really any skips for me, even if a couple of the songs drag on a little bit. The Downward Spiral by 9 Inch Nails is not something that I listen to often. I never just throw on March of the Pigs or Closer, even though they're great songs, but when I'm in the right demented place to go into this nihilistic conceptual hole, it's one of the very best dark albums that come to mind. Doom is one of those artists that I haven't really talked about yet because I'm scared that anything I say could not possibly do him and my love for him any justice. He's one of the most influential musicians for my love of music, and this album seriously changed my life in middle school. It's just about on par with Mad Villainy for me, which, shout out to this suggestion too. Maybe someday I'll get the courage to make a whole video on him, but I don't know. Songs by Adrienne Lenker is one of the best folky singer-songwriter albums of the last few years. I hope this doesn't reduce the project at all when I say this, but there are certain situations where an album fits one specific feeling so accurately that it then becomes my go-to music for that emotion. It's more than just, oh, let me put on my sad playlist or my happy playlist. It's for very particular situations, and there's only one album at a time that becomes my kindred spirit for that emotion. Songs is my gateway to truly feeling bittersweet. And similarly, I'll have this flowchart going in my head for certain concepts too. When it comes to my favorite music about death, I can either go the spiritual, peaceful route with Sufjan's Carrie and Lowell, or a more religious, philosophical route with Skeleton Tree by Nick Cave. You just go whatever direction seems more compelling at the time. I only got through a fraction of the suggestions, so my apologies if I didn't get to yours, but hey, we've got all the time in the world. Comment down below with anything you want me to cover next, and thanks for watching. Hey, thank you for watching that video. If you want to support the channel, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You can follow me on social media at RenshawHS. You can buy my merch, support my Patreon, and thank you again. I'll see you soon.